What up, all you YouTubers? So, I got my engine back. Check it out. Got the engine back from the machine shop. It had a ring groove, so had to bore it 20 over, which is all good. We got some fresh cam bearings in there, and then some fresh oil journal plugs, and yeah. So we got a box full of parts there. And there's more over there. I got my heads there, my crank, and pistons and rods over there. So we're gonna get this thing put together today, for the most part, hopefully. Got my boy CJ back there, and his boy Cole back there. CJ gonna be doing be holding the camera for me while I'm putting this thing together. So yeah, let's do it. All right, so we got the engine taped up. Check it out. So got it all taped up. We can spray it. I'm just going with the black engine enamel, black. I don't know. I just want it to look good. So we got the second coat on just now. Looks good. So we're just gonna let that dry, and then we'll take all the paper off and start building it. All right, so we got the paper off. She's looking good. Looking good. Alright, so let's get to building. Alright, so we're gonna take the caps off, the main caps. Of course, when I sent it to the machine shop, they're all numbered, and he went in and put his numbers on them too, but he put the bolts and stuff back in it. So anyway, we're gonna take all the bolts out, take the caps off. Taking the bolts out of the side, you have bolts on the side of the caps, and then you got 4 bolts going across the top of the cap. So a little rubber mallet here. Just break them loose. They can be a pain sometimes to get out. Okay. So that's one. All I do is just tap them back and forth and pull on them. I'm using a rubber mallet, not a metal hammer. There we go. Number 3. Now, they make a puller for these to pull them straight up, but tapping on them works too. Alright, so I'm gonna grab my main bearing. Alright, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna use plastic gauge to make sure all of our clearances are good on our crank bearings and rod bearings. So obviously we're going to do the crank first. You need to make sure that all your journals are clean. See, I just got a piece of paper towel in there.
Any cleaner?
Well, I mean, if it were a dirty engine, we were just tearing it apart, put it back together, then I'd probably spray some cleaner on there. But it's already been cleaned, so I'll just make sure like wasn't no dust and trash in there and stuff. So, all right, so we're gonna put our bearings in for our mains. Now there's a little tab on the block, and there's a little tab here. Obviously that's where that goes. Now you don't want to put any grease or anything here because your bearing stays stationary and nothing spins on the back side, just crank on the top side. So just gonna slide that in there like so, in the groove. And then make sure that the bearing is flush with the engine up there. Make sure that one side isn't sticking up farther than the other. Alright, we'll do the same all the way down. Alright, and then the center is your thrust washer. And it's got a groove as well. So I'm gonna grab the crank and we're gonna set it in there. I'm not gonna lube it up or anything. I mean, I guess I could, but setting it in there would be okay. I'm not going to turn it or anything. All I'm going to do is take the caps and put it directly back on top, and then use plastic gauge, obviously, to make sure all my clearances are good. So since we're not rotating the crank while it's in there, it should be okay without lube. Of course, we'll take it back out and lube it up and all the bearings and stuff once we make sure the tolerances are within spec. Oh, thing's heavy. Of course, this does have some oil on it left from when I took it out. So what I'm doing is just making sure the crank is clean where it rides on the bearings. Make sure there ain't any dust or anything on it. Of course, this is my original crank that come out of the engine. Nothing was wrong with it. Everything looked good on it. There was no scratches or anything bad in it, so I'm just going to reuse it. Okay. Now we are gently going to lay this in here. Okay. Now again, I'm not going to rotate this crank at all because I didn't lube any of the bearings. I'm just setting it in here to strictly make sure that all my clearances are within spec. I'm just cleaning. Make sure there's everything off where the bearing sits. Okay, so that's in there. Now, so well, I got plastic gauge here, and all you do is there's a little piece of string inside there. You'll see it in a minute. And what you do is set it on you just cut you a piece and set it long ways on your bearing here on on your crank where the caps go. And then once you tighten it down to spec, and then once you do that, you'll take them back apart or take the caps back off, and it'll be smushed out and then what you do is just measure the thick or the wideness of the strip that's smushed out, and it tells you your clearances. Now if you look right here, main bearings, standard 0.0001 and service limit on these specs are 3. I read somewhere else where 0.004 is within the service limit too. So anyway, hopefully we can get to the standard. I'm sure we'll be within the service limit of it. So what I do is just cut a little piece, because all these numbers are the same, like every single one of them down. Of course, the other side is millimeters. So what I do is just cut the piece of paper like this, and then open this up. Tell you what, I'm gonna turn this fan off because it's blowing right on.
Alright.
So I get this thing open, and there's the little piece. We're just gonna lay that in there like so. Oh. All right, so there's that one. And of course I'm gonna keep my little pieces of paper here because some of my measurements are on there. I'll do the same here. These are kind of hard to get in there. You just kind of squeeze it in there, which I'm gonna use my light so I can see better. All right, so that's in there. That one's still there. This is very time consuming. However, I'm the type of person, I just want to do this one time. So if there's an issue, I can catch it now instead of putting the motor completely together and then getting it put in and everything together and then find out there's an issue. All right, so this is the last one. All right, not sure if you can see that, but yeah. So I've got one there, 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 and there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the caps, put them back on, torque everything down to spec, and then we'll pull the caps off and see what they look like. So this is number one. And one goes here. So obviously putting these in, you want to get them straight down, and try not to move the plastic gauge. I'm gonna put some bolts in that. So the 12mm bolts go in the center. There. And then the ones with the studs go on the outside edges. And then you have bolts to go on each end. Of course, you torque these down and then you do these last. And I'm using all my factory main bolts. You know, some people may argue that you should have went with ARP bolts, and maybe I should have, but you know, factory. I've seen these engines hold 1,000 horsepower all day long. So I'm not going to be at 1,000. I'm going to try to push around 8. So I just went back with the factory main bolts, and that's just what I'm going to do. So try to save money where I can. When it isn't 100% necessary, but I definitely want to do it right. And if you got the extra money, yeah, go ahead and spend the ARP or spend the money for the ARP bolts. I mean, it's just more security, especially if you're going to be running high horsepower. So, I'm gonna grab my socket and ratchet. All I'm gonna do is just snug these down. I'm not gonna torque them. I'm just gonna kind of evenly draw this cap down. I guess I could use my impact for this. All right, and number 2, doing the same thing. My plastic gauge is still on there. Just gonna go straight down with it. And then I'm gonna put some bolts in it. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and get the caps on. There is a torque sequence you go through when torquing them down. So whenever I get all the bolts and caps in and get ready to torque it, we'll come back to that. All right, so we got all the caps on. The bolts are just hand tight. So I'm fixing to take and torque them down to spec. So obviously you have a sequence that you go in. Your inside bolts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you start with your outer bolts 11, 12. And then as you're on each bolt, so you have your main bearing caps, bolts and studs, your inners. Step 1, is 15 foot-pounds, which says up here. Let me go back. Yeah, the top. So foot-pounds is over here, and then Newton meters are over here, which we're not going about them. So anyway, so the inners, step 1 is 15 foot-pounds, and then you go back over the inners in the same sequence and do an additional 80 degrees. So that's what we're gonna do first. So the first, it tells you on here the front of engine is pointing that way. So obviously this is the front of the engine. So number 1 is right here. And what it does is just, it works from the center and works your way out so that everything is torqued where I don't know what's the wording I'm looking for. You just work your way from the center and work your way outward.
Evenly toward.
Yeah, evenly toward the ends. So you wanna hang on to that for me, and then I need to go to 15 foot-pounds. Of course, you need a torque wrench. Have a digital one. And that's inch-pound, Newton meters, foot-pounds. All right, so 15 foot-pounds, says it right there. And then we're gonna start torquing. All right, so the inner bolts are 13. So I'm gonna torque them down to 15 foot-pounds. Wait a minute. Let me see how these go. Yeah, number 1's here, so you start over here instead of over there. Chris. I know. Need to get my shit together. Uh-oh, she's getting tight. So we're at 15.5. Number 2. Oh, we hit that one to 16. It'll be okay. And then, let's see, we go to 3. Oh, 17. It'll be okay. Number 4. $15.7, and then let's see the 5, yeah. Here. Seven's in the back here. Alright, and then, yeah, 9 and 10. Okay, so that's done. They're all at 15 foot-pounds. So step 2 is additional 80 degrees. So I can, there's a way to, all right, so yeah. I'm zeroing it out now. So this is a snap-on, and it does angles. I'm setting it to. Okay, so we're gonna do 80 degrees. I'm gonna set it at 80. $80. And we're gonna go to 1. So if you don't have a torque wrench, it automatically does degrees, which this is really nice. But you can get I've seen people take a CD and then put it like the center around the bolt, and then you can mark the CD with like angles, like mark your angles out on the CD and just keep the CD still and turn the torque wrench to 80 degrees, you know, on the CD or whatever. So, you know, who uses CDs anymore, right? All right, and that's 80 degrees. So now we go to 2. Okay, that's 80. And 3. All right. Come on, reset. It sure does make things so much easier. Okay. And they're done. All right, so now we're gonna do the outer bolts. On this one, you go 15 foot-pounds, and then an additional 51 degrees. So I'm gonna back this down. Yeah, 15 pounds. All right. Change up sockets. Because these outside ones are 15 millimeters. All right, so we're gonna go 15 foot-pounds first. Well, that went really quick. It's pretty much the same. Yeah, do it the same way. Of course, since we've already torqued down the other ones, it doesn't take much to torque these down. Okay, so they're all at 15 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna go 51 degrees. So over here, degrees. All right. Okay. All right, and those are torqued. put these side bolts in and torque them down. Which I know they're just side bolts, but I want an accurate as possible reading, as if though the, you know, just like the engine was completely put together. All right, so now we're going to torque the side ones. They go to 18 foot-pounds. So, oh, we don't want to do angle. I'm going to do foot-pounds. 18. All right. And there's really no order that I'm aware of. But I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to go, and it probably doesn't matter, but I'm just going to go from side to side on each rod or main cap. Okay, so that is done. So yeah, so right now everything's torqued to spec, and now we can tear it all apart and see how our plastic gauge looks. All right, so we're gonna tear them all back down. All right, well, let's go a different route. All right. So what I'm gonna do is just push up with this pry bar gently so that I can keep from rocking it back and forth. Too much anyway. Okay, so you can see we have a mark there. I don't know if you can see that too well. Light glare on it, but you have a mark there, and it also leaves a mark over here on the. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can see that. There's a right there. There's a mark. So what we'll do is we get our clearance. Tell you what, let's do it over here. Can we see better over here? So you just line up the thicknesses. And 0.002 looks like where we're at. The line's not quite as wide. It's definitely wider than 0.003, so yeah. So we're within spec right there. 0.002 is definitely within spec. So we know that particular one is good. So within spec, so everything's good with that one. So I'm gonna do the rest of them just to be sure. I won't film it all. That's how you do the rest of them. And then once I take all the rest of them off, check them, then we know that's good. I can go in for another time or another go around and just actually tighten everything down like it's supposed to be again, lube everything up, of course, and then we'll be good. So yeah, let's do the rest of them and then I'll be back. So we got the crank put in. Turns freely. Everything was like 0.015 and 0.002, which was in spec, so good on the crank. So I went ahead and lubed everything up, lubed the bearings up, and put the crank in and tightened, torqued everything back down.